Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Irish Sports Daily Day After Recap Show. I am Greg Flammang. This is a day after Notre Dame's 34-23 loss to Ohio State in the national championship game. Final AP poll just came out. Notre Dame finishes number 2 in the nation, rightfully so, behind Ohio State. A lot of the metrics, F plus, FEI, things of that nature. They pointed to Ohio State being the number 1 team for pretty much the entire year. Notre Dame was number 2. And that's how it worked out. We're going to talk about the game, and we're going to talk about, kind of what Notre Dame could have done better, where things kind of went awry for them. But I think they got outplayed by Ohio State, especially by Ohio State's offense in this game. Notre Dame's defense was the best part of their team, and Ohio State pretty much got whatever they wanted for their first 4 possessions. They were 6 of 6 on third down. As we talked about last night, Notre Dame could not get off the field, and that ultimately cost them, right? Notre Dame had a couple of lulls in there where after their touchdown drive, they went 3 and out on 2 straight possessions. And during that time, Ohio State went from 7-0 down to 28-7 up and pretty much ended the game from there. Notre Dame made a run to come back 31-23. They had a chance. They had a 3rd and 11 to get off the field. Notre Dame get the ball with a chance to tie. They weren't able to get the ball back. Obviously, they hit the long pass to Jeremiah Smith. And that was pretty much the game from that point. But we're going to talk about everything. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. So whenever it is, we are going to go live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches with over a decade of making the best custom clothing available. ESQ will help you look and feel your best in 2025. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt, or bomber jacket, or the perfect tuxedo for wedding season, check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. Let's start out with some comments. Envy Irish says, hard to sleep last night. Can't even imagine what the boys were going through. Looking forward to some more cathartic discussion. Get it all out and move forward. That's the goal. Thank you, Envy Irish, for being here as always. Jason Warnock says, trouble sleeping because I'm excited about the future. With BK, Notre Dame took a beating, and we knew Notre Dame didn't deserve to be there. Yeah, I think the second half was heartening on that front. Just Notre Dame was able to put up a fight. They scored, I think, 16 straight points with a missed field goal in there. So they moved the ball on 3 straight possessions, 70-plus yards. They moved the ball on those possessions, and they were able to get some points on the board and kind of make it a game and put some game pressure on Ohio State, which, of course, they responded nicely. But it was good to see Notre Dame fight back there. Robert Hallecky, thanks for being here, Robert. I'm so proud of them and thankful. What a season. The way they fought back to stay in the game says everything I need to know about this team in the season. Thank you for covering the team. Go Irish. Yeah, thank you, Robert. It was a pleasure to cover this team. It was a great team to cover. They were a great team. They had some great moments, and there many great plays, many great moments in the season. It's tough, obviously tough to lose the last one, but can't lose sight. 14-2, you'll take that every time. Rajon says, tough to watch post-game. Heard of the players. Proud to be a fan of these guys. Yeah, Jack Kaiser and Riley Leonard, emotional, right? And it is hard to watch those guys, be as upset as they were. They put their heart into it, right? I mean, Jack Kaiser's been around for 6 years, 70-plus games for Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, I mean, he played his heart out, right? He had 9 carries on the first drive, basically just slamming into the defense. He played a good football game. I think it was 22 of 31 for 255, 2 touchdowns. He did have some errant throws that he wants back, but at the same time, like he comported himself well. I thought he played a good football game on the main. So Envy Iris says, I do think Notre Dame is on the brink of something good. Hopefully the staff can stay somewhat intact. Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting Al Golden to take the Cincinnati defensive coordinator job. I think that'll be announced fairly soon. Not necessarily today, but he'll go on an interview, and I think that he'll be offered and he'll accept the job. I'm expecting Mike Mickens to be the choice. None of this stuff is set in stone, of course, but I think that's going to be what happens. And so that's going to be the path forward for Notre Dame. So that'll be interesting. In terms of being on the brink of something good, I think there's so many positive pieces to take from this. The offensive line is going to be good. The running back room is going to be good. I think the wide receiver room is going to be good. The second, I feel good about the secondary. Christian Gray obviously had a poor end to the season, but he also made several plays that were instrumental in Notre Dame getting to the championship game. He had a tough game yesterday, but there's a lot there. Obviously, Leonard Moore can't feel any higher about Leonard Moore and his prospects next year and what he'll be able to do. They got to figure the quarterback situation has to get figured out. What does the offense look like? How does the offense operate when you don't have the legs and mobility and the escapability of Riley Leonard? That's going to be the big question. But it's a very fun offseason, a very exciting offseason coming up. Notre Dame has a junior day for 2026 recruiting that there's a ton of big time prospects. I think this title run has kind of opened the eyes to a lot of top prospects in 2026. So there's something to be said about that. Stay tuned, right? Lock in irishsportsdaily.com. Check it out. We're going to have a ton of content coming out. Sean Cabral, this is a really good point. I was thinking about this yesterday. The game had 2005 Fiesta Bowl vibes, started out with a great drive, got down a bunch, mounted a comeback that put us within one score and could not get the third and long stop. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. I mean, it pretty much was the 05 game, Sean. That's a good call by you. I was thinking that yesterday as well. It just is what it is, right? The unfortunate part for me is this defense was far better than that 05 defense was. And they just had a tough game. Again, they couldn't get off the field. And we talked about on the post game last night is, we've seen Notre Dame's offense have lulls this year. They've been Notre Dame going 3 and out on offense at various points of the season has been a thing that they've done. And one thing that didn't couple with that was Notre Dame giving up points. And funny enough, the last time Notre Dame, it was kind of similar to the NIU game, frankly, where Notre Dame went down and scored on their opening drive. NIU scored, and then Notre Dame had a couple 3 and outs, and then NIU hit them with a couple field goals, but they were able to take the lead while Notre Dame was scuffling on offense. The only other time that happened was against Ohio State. Ohio State did it a different way. It would have been better if Ohio State had only scored field goals on those successive drives, but they got touchdowns. And not just that, but they got touchdowns in a way that it took a really long time. Notre Dame could not get the ball back to figure things out on offense. And by the time they did get things figured out on offense, the score is 31-7. You're just not going to come back, right? And that makes it difficult. And look, Ohio State, they did everything they needed to do. Defense, they didn't have to do much to stop Notre Dame because Notre Dame was kind of stopping themselves, right? They had a false start, and then they had a holding penalty when Notre Dame had kind of overcome that false start, and they had hit a pass to Bo Collins. They overcame that false start. Then they get the holding penalty. You're in 2nd and 25. The drive's going to end at this point, right? And then on the next drive, you have 3rd and 5, and you have a play to run to extend, and the snap hits the tight end. You don't even give yourself a chance. Ohio State doesn't have to do anything when you snap the ball off the tight end. They don't have to do – there's nothing they need to do to get you off the field. And so Notre Dame did not force them to make plays to stop them. Notre Dame stopped themselves. And then again, by the time it got to where, okay, Notre Dame has the next real drive they had, it's 28-7. That's not going to work, And look, when that happens, you're just going to lose. That's just it. And everyone's watching the same thing, right? Everyone is thinking it. You don't have to be a genius football analyst to say you're losing the game in real time right now. And so it's a bummer that didn't happen. Safe. I think. Man, Jay Love with next to no touches and only opportunity given was right up the gut. Come on, man. Yeah, I think there's reasons for why Jeremiah Love was taken out of this game, and I've kind of tweeted about it. Like, they just didn't have a ton of offensive plays to get him going. To the point, Safe's point, and a couple people on Twitter as well, you do have to find a way to get someone like Jeremiah Love the ball in space, at a matchup with a linebacker. You need something from your best off. He's Notre Dame's best offensive player, as good as Jaden Greathouse was last night. Jeremiah Love is your best player. You got to get him. You got to get him touches. You have to get him involved. You have to give him chances. And they weren't able to do it. Again, that's a principle thing. Again, Notre Dame, they threw for over 200 yards in the second half, right? And really, they threw for over 200 yards in like a quarter and a half. They were able to move the ball on Ohio State. It's just, it was too little too late for them. So that's something they got to get figured out. I think in this offseason, more ways to get Jeremiah Love the ball when you're not handing it to him is one of the priorities for their team. Stephen Williams says, great job all year, Greg. Thanks for everything you all do. Yeah. Thank you, Stephen, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for your viewership and your contributions to the channel and the support, right? And I think it's January 21st, and we're having a conversation about a football game Notre Dame played in yesterday. That's a privilege, right? It's a blessing to be able to do that and to talk about them. And it was a hell of a run. They had a heck of a good season. They won 13 straight games. I believe they ended up beating number 5, number 6, number 9, and 10. I believe they beat 5, 6, 9, and 10 this year. So that, look, you beat 4 top 10 teams. You're doing a good job. And it was a treat to cover. It was a great team. And yeah, Rajon says Notre Dame scored the second most points versus OSU all year. Oregon scored 32 in the first game. Yeah, and none of those points were fluky. All those drives were 70 plus yards. Like it wasn't like they got a short field or anything like that. They just went down and scored on them. And then you missed a 27-yard field goal to boot. So essentially Notre Dame's up for 26 points against them. It just, it's look again. They could move the ball. It just they couldn't get off the field, and that's pretty much what it is. Tex ND says Price and Love 7 carries and 16 yards combined. What happened there? We've kind of talked about it. They didn't really have plays. They weren't really on the field after that first drive, and then when the second half starts, and then they went. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they went 3 and out again when the second half started. I mean, they had a 4th and 2, and they did the fake punt with, I don't mind going for it, right? Go for it, and you're fake punting. You're basically throwing an out route with Angeli and Faison. I don't think LSU was fooled at all. I mean, OSU was fooled at all, but also like it could just, you could execute the play, right? It could be a better throw, and Faison could just catch it. That's another thing that could happen. But then after that, it's 31-7. And even before that, it's 28-7. The game has eliminated those running guys, especially at 31-7. So it is what it is. A Stubborn Mix says, I don't think that the Christian Gray matchup is why they lost the game at the end, but having him in that coverage and not press man was a microcosm of how Notre Dame got out coached. First, Notre Dame really doesn't ever play press to the field like that. They played man the way that they've been. I mean, look, the way that Christian Gray played that coverage is the exact same way that he played the coverage against Penn State when he intercepted the pass and won Notre Dame the game. So, people, I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter about why didn't Notre Dame do what they've been doing? Well, that's what they've been doing. The problem is, and so I agree with the point that it is a microcosm in that everything that Al Golden really tried to do on defense, Chip Kelly and Ohio State had the answer for it. and they knew exactly what they wanted to do off of it. And that is the key to me in this game, is that, every especially at this level, everything's kind of a chess match between the DC and the OC. And in this one, Chip Kelly was prepared for everything Notre Dame was going to try. Whatever wrinkles that Al Golden brought out for this, Ohio State was ready for it, and they had an answer themselves. They were ready to out-execute Notre Dame. They didn't make the type of mistakes that Notre Dame made to end drives, right? Look, that's what they've been all playoffs, right? Like, one thing Notre Dame didn't get is Travion Henderson punching a guy after the play to set them back 15 yards, right? Some kind of penalty like that, where it's like, it's nothing the defense did. Ohio State did something dumb and they hurt themselves, right? Like, Ohio State didn't do that at all yesterday. And so they were able to stay on the field. Their execution was kind of flawless. I mean, it pretty much was throughout the entire first, 2.5 quarters of the game on offense. So Chip Kelly had all the answers, and whatever buttons Al Golden was trying to push, they just were not it was not correct. It was not the right thing. His job is to keep the offense off balance, and they were never off balance. And I think when you guys, like, I noticed it, like, their body language after that first drive and into the second drive, I'm thinking, man, Ohio State is increasingly comfortable. They are not feeling any sort of pressure. They're not feeling any sort of heat. They are not pressing. They feel completely comfortable with everything they're trying to do. And it bore out. I mean, they couldn't get off the field. So, Mark Youngman says, I love Riley as a player and as a human. I'm ready for a quarterback who can throw well and run a bit rather than a quarterback who can run well and throw a bit. I kind of think, like, I kind of hate this take, to be honest. Over the last 2 weeks, like, Notre Dame got back in the game because Riley Leonard was making the throws that he needed to make. They came back in the Penn State game because Riley Leonard made the throws that he needed to make. Like, I don't like the take at all, to be honest. No, I respectfully, right? Like, Mark, you're not the first person who thinks this, right? And there are people who I respect who kind of feel the same way. So I don't, I'm just being honest about it. I think that Riley Leonard made throws, and, Jay Greathouse made great catches, but, like, you make great catches because the ball is being placed in a spot where you can make the catch, and again, if I knew that Riley Leonard was going to be 21 of 32 or 21 of 33 in this game for 255 and 2 touchdowns, you're giving Notre Dame a great chance to win, right? Like, I think anyone would have taken that. Again, they had 4 drives of 70-plus yards in this game, all basically because of Riley Leonard, So I just if you told me Notre Dame was going to score 23 points and miss a 27-yard field goal, give them 26, they would have had a great chance to win. The defense played a game unlike anything they've done this year, not even close to this. So I think that's kind of what it is. I thought Riley Leonard played as well as he could have. Notre Dame, no quarterback has played as well as Riley Leonard did against Ohio State this year. So it just that's how I feel about it, right? That's me. Sergio says, just popping in live to say thanks for the awesome coverage, Greg. Thank you, Sergio. You're in almost all the shows. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. Matt McCarthy, do you think the run by this team will lead to an increase in NIL funds, team payroll, and admissions being more lenient with undergrad transfers who don't come from Northwestern Duke type schools? I think so. I think that already happened. It's like Riley Leonard. He was open about the fact that, like, he does not have his degree yet. I think, and first of all, another point on the Riley Leonard, Will Howard thing. I think if you switch quarterbacks, the outcome is the same. That's how I feel about that. So I don't think the quarterbacks were the difference per se. I think the outcome is exactly the same. And frankly, like it might have been a little bit worse because Will Howard with the room that he had to run, Riley Leonard is a much more dangerous runner than Will Howard is. So some of those 12-yard runs or whatever yard runs that Will Howard had, who obviously played a great game. I'm not taking anything away. He played great. But Riley Leonard can turn those into explosives. Anyway, here's the thing with the NIL, right? Notre Dame, I don't question their ability to land players because of money or whatever. Notre Dame has to find a way, and I talked about this on the post game yesterday as well. Notre Dame has to find a way to be a destination that players want to go to win a championship, a la Caleb Downs, a la Quinshon Judkins, 1,200-yard backs aren't transferring to Notre Dame to win a title. True freshman All-American safeties aren't transferring to Notre Dame to win a title. They are doing that to go to Ohio State, so that's part of it. And it's the same thing with Jeremiah Smith. I don't think there's any amount of money that would have kept Jeremiah Smith away from Ohio State. You want to go to Ohio State to A, play in their offense, and B, you feel like you go to Ohio State, we're going to win a title. And I don't think people really thought that about Notre Dame, especially last year when they went 10-3 or whatever it was, and they're in the Sun Bowl. Notre Dame just doesn't have that same cachet, and they need to get to that point where it's like I use the example of just Ryan Williams, where it's like Ryan Williams is at Alabama. He's a freshman All-American. Is he going to leave Alabama and say, I'm going to go to Notre Dame and win a national title? That's what you kind of need. The other thing you need is, like JT Tuilamau, Jack Sawyer, Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson, Hamilton, the D tackle for Ohio State, and countless others. These guys could have gone pro last year and been second, third round picks. But they came back to try to win a national title. Blake Fisher went pro to be a second round pick. Now look, he's starting as a offensive lineman for the Texans, right? So it's not like he made the wrong decision. It's not what I'm saying. But you do need that. It would have been great if a starting NFL caliber lineman came back to Notre Dame because he wanted to be a first round pick and he was the left tackle for Notre Dame or the right tackle or wherever you want to say. That would have been great, right? That makes a big difference in things. Notre Dame is going to have Ben Morrison go pro instead of coming back for a senior year where it's I want to win a national title. And I don't know that Ben Morrison's going to go in the first round. I know that Dane Brugler has him 64th in his player rankings. That's a second round pick. If he's a second round pick, you're going pro to be a second round pick. I mean, you need those guys to come back. You need those guys to say, I want to win a title. And look, Xavier Watts, Howard Cross, Riley Mills, they chose to come back and try to make a run at a title, right? If you had gotten Blake Fisher, maybe you could have gotten there, is what I'm saying. And again, this isn't anything against Blake Fisher. It worked out for him, right? In his life, it worked out for him. I'm just saying for the university, you also need that. Ohio State got all those guys to come back, and they got Quinshon Judkins, and they got Caleb Downs. That's what you need. You need that. Lathan Ransom, another guy for Ohio State. Envy Irish says, maybe a topic for Hit and Hustle, but would be interested to see a ranking of who you think we will miss the most next year based on stats, but also is coming up behind them. a ranking. I mean Riley Leonard. It's pretty big. I mean, I to be honest with you, I think if Riley Leonard was coming back next year, they would be national champions. That's right. They would average 45 points a game on offense, and they would be national champions if Riley Leonard was coming back, but he's not. I think. I mean, after that, it's probably Cross and Mills, and then Watts. I think Watts is easier to absorb just because I think in the secondary they're still going to be strong. Those D tackles, the D tackles are tough. I do like the guys that they're bringing in on the interior, but it's like, are you going to get the playmaking of a healthy Howard Cross, of Riley Mills? That's tough. But maybe I'll broach that with Jamie and give it a little bit more thought. Levi says, would you call zero blitz like OSU in 22 on 3rd and 11, or try to put a safety and more on Smith? Leonard, it was never going to be Leonard Moore just because they are boundary field. And so OSU knew where Christian Gray was going to be. And so they put Jeremiah Smith to the field. It wasn't quite a zero blitz just because Xavier Watts it has the running back in coverage in case he leaks. And since Xavier Watts kind of came late, but he's not really triggering on a blitz like that. He's only doing that because Henderson picked up. Kaiser on the blitz. As far as sending pressure like that and leaving Gray on an island, all I can say is when they came out in the formation and I saw the matchup, I thought the season's over. The game's over. This is not what Notre Dame wants, and this is exactly what Ohio State wants. I was heartened by the fact that it was kind of a deep ball, just because I was like, oh, it's a deep shot. Like those are, it's closer to 50-50, right? Than like an out or something. I mean, obviously when you see the separation, where he's done. But look, I think Christian Gray is also playing it to where it's like, look, we're sending numbers. They need to not be able to have the time to throw this ball. And so he's sitting on like a crosser or an out or whatever, a stop. He's sitting on it, and he got the route that he didn't think they would be able to throw. So, I mean, that one's obviously the easiest to second guess. I hated it in the moment. It obviously didn't work out, but it is kind of what they've done, Tex ND says, did Golden call the game like he was out the door already, or were they just severely overmatched? I just think he had a bad game. It was didn't work out. None of it did. What he wanted to do, what he was trying to do, what he thought he could get from the defense, from his team, he didn't push the right buttons. That's what I think it was. Ed says, where's Jamie University? Jamie's with his son. His son is sick. His son is homesick. So he'll be on the show later this week. We'll talk about it. Talk about things. Envy Irish. The position battles at O-line will be great, but also at safety, a lot of guys in the back end to choose from. Yeah, for sure. And I think the quarterback, obviously, wide receiver will be fun. O-line will be epic. I mean, just because of the sheer number of options that they have. So that'll be very interesting to cover. Jason Warnock says Notre Dame should go after Caleb Downs. OSU won't likely be great next year. That's good. It's a good point. I mean, especially like if Jim Knowles leaves, that'd be interesting. If Jim Knowles went somewhere, go get Caleb Downs. I mean, why not? Go play for Notre Dame. Definitely step in for Watts. That'd be great. Sid Irish says, not going to lie, we seem to be getting less respect than I thought. Most think. But who? Respect from who? From who? Freaking Herb Street. Who cares? Like, who cares what he says about anything? Seriously, the guy's crying on TV. Listen, you're calling the game in a professional capacity. That's ridiculous. You're crying after the game. Get out of here, bro. Look, if it means that much to you, then put Put McDonough and Greg McElroy on the call then and go watch in the stands if that's how it's going to be. Like literally, you work for ESPN calling a national championship game. Anyway, but who cares? Like, who do we need respect from? Who does Notre Dame need respect from? Like, honestly, it's not worth anyone's energy to worry about respect that you get from like opposing fans, from losers on national shows. Like, they never respected Notre Dame. So who cares what they say now? They would never respected a title. Like, seriously, looking for validation from whoever you're thinking of here is just folly. Like, it's a waste of time. It doesn't matter. They're not important. Byron Boyce says, you always said Notre Dame has to get better at chuck plays, too much ground pound, need more easy downfield plays. It always seems we drive length of the field, need more quick strikes. And they actually, like, they were doing that. They were doing that in the second half, which allowed them to get back in the game because the quickness from which they were scoring gave themselves a chance to score because it was 31-15. They missed the field goal, and then they were able to drive again and get the touchdown and 2-point conversion and try to get a stop. Like, what they needed to do, or what I wanted to see from them, they were actually doing. And it's funny, like, I put out the tweet, like, Herb Street says, oh, Notre Dame can't come back from 2-touchdown deficit. Well, clearly you could. And all these weirdos and all these goofballs from Ohio State are like, whoa, you didn't come all the way back. It's like, yeah, it was 31-7. How did they get to 31-23? By throwing the ball. Like, in their heart of hearts, Ohio State is thinking, if they don't convert this 3rd and 11, Notre Dame is going to go down and score. I know they thought that. There was no reason for them to think they wouldn't. They had just had 3 straight 70-plus yard drives throwing the ball. Like, clearly Notre Dame was moving it on them, and they were comfortable throwing the ball, and they were making plays. They could. It's just that they couldn't get the stop. Like, these morons, these absolute idiots who are just like, oh, they didn't come all the way back. It's like, how did they get back in the game? They were throwing the ball. Like, it was dumb, lazy analysis by Herb Street, of course, because he only lives in narratives, because he doesn't actually follow it. He has media brain. He goes from the college football games to the booth or to the set on game day, and then he goes to Thursday night football where he's terrible. Like, he doesn't live in actual analysis. He lives in narratives, and that's what it is. And that's, again, these are the people that we want validation from. They don't know anything. They don't matter. They're not important. I got a little ranty. That's a little ranty, but it is what it is. I'm in a bad mood. Brian Chesenak says, thank you for the super chat, Brian. I appreciate that. Marcus will be at Notre Dame a long time. He will get one. I really like that what Notre Dame has coming back. O-line, running back, cornerback, wide receiver, linebacker could be dominant. These are fair points, Brian. I appreciate that comment. I appreciate your super chat. Sid Irish says, I'm just bitter. Sid Irish is just bitter. I get it. It was a tough game. Ed says, do all teams time their motion man to just narrowly miss the flight of the snapped ball? I've been worried all season that a snap would hit the motion man. I decided I was crazy, and then it happens. Here's the problem. First of all, they do time it like that. And look, like all this, like all the things, like when Notre Dame or when the media gets like the first 15 minutes of practice, like these are the types of things they work on. And it's like everything people say where it's like, there was nothing going on in those 15 minutes, but what they're doing is this kind of ball handling stuff during those 15 minutes. And like you do it over and over again so that this doesn't happen. The problem in this specific scenario is they're sending Evans in motion, and he's supposed to cross the line of scrimmage. But if you watch, the play clock is almost at 0. And so Leonard had to snap it early because he didn't want to get a delay a game. And Evans wasn't across the formation yet. That's what happened. So it was just one of those things where they were in a rush. They couldn't get the formation done in time. They couldn't get the mechanics done in time. They tried to snap it and miss him. They didn't miss him. They hit him. And like the same thing on the field goal. They decided late to kick the field goal, and if you watch it, like maybe you don't want to go back and watch, but if you do watch, like they're like the holders kind of like, hey, we got to go, and Mitch Jeter is not totally settled. They snap the ball in kind of a weird way, like no one's actually really ready. And I mean, it was a terrible kick, right? And I think it was because the whole operation was the timing was off. And look, you can't mess up the timing, right? Like you just can't. Like you look at these golfers, like to me, field goal kicking is similar to golfing. Like you look at these golfers, like everything about them is like pre-shot routine. Everything has to be the same. The timing, you don't slap till you're ready and all that stuff. They went too soon. And look, that's a situation where the holder or someone has to know, like, hey, we're going to lose 5 yards here. We're going to lose 5 yards, but it's more important that we do the operation correct than try to rush it. You know, and look, obviously Marcus Freeman doesn't want to call timeout because at that point of the game, all your timeouts are super valuable. So it's just like it got messed up there. It got messed up on the Mitchell Evans play. And that's what it is. Chris P says, are you concerned about any other coaches bouncing besides Golden? If Mike Mickens is not the choice at defensive coordinator, I would be very concerned about him leaving. I think you always kind of have to, by the way, I do think Mike Mickens is the choice, so I'm not super worried about it. I do think you always have to be concerned about Dylan McCullough just because of the NFL roots, and we know he wants to be an OC at some point. He wants to kind of further his coaching career. You have to keep an eye out for that. Biaggi, maybe? This isn't based on anything other than special teams coaches are bouncing around. I know he's got a lot going on right now, right? And so maybe that would make it less likely because he's just had twins and, you know, his life is kind of in flux in that way. But special teams coaches are kind of around. Let me just think. Max Bulla, maybe someone wants to give him a raise or something. I don't know. I can't see Al Washington leaving. Can't see Mike Brown leaving. So I think, and obviously not Denbrock. So I think it should be okay. Tex ND, I don't. It says Price will hit the portal. I don't think he will. I think he's going to stay. Our latest intel is that he's going to stay at Notre Dame. I'll put it like that. And this was like pre-playoff run. So I think they're going to be good there. Jason Z says Riley was awesome yesterday. Didn't lose because of him. Notre Dame couldn't have gotten to the point without him. Nowhere close. Yeah, agree. Thought he had a good game. Tex ND, I think you're getting a little emotional. Like Gray will be the next Mickey. Better talent will take his spot and he will leave. I mean, he's like literally he's had like a literally just like a great season. He's at 4 interceptions. A pick six that wins the USC game, the breakup that wins the A&M game, the interception that wins the Penn State game. Like, I know he had a tough time against Jeremiah Smith, who, like, it literally, if you read the tweets, you will see that people think if Jeremiah Smith was in this year's draft, he'd go number 1, like the number 1 pick. You got to have a little bit more perspective on this stuff. Like, we can talk about having a tough game. I've talked about him having a tough game, especially when he's had to play with his back to the quarterback. But I mean, he had a really good year. Like, we we can't look at it where it's like you play poorly in a national title game and it's like you're going to transfer because you stink. Like that's I can't get behind that. I just can't. Leonard can't throw the ball. I just can't get behind this. Greg Wasserman. OSU went with Howard because Leonard can't throw the ball. I just can't get behind that. It's just I don't understand how people watch the last two games and have a take like that. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. You know, I just can't. Robert Halicki says, I forget the source, but Pete supposedly told Marcus Freeman that if into a buzzsaw and lost, he would support him to do what is necessary. Oh, okay. Necessary for change and improvement. The type of support was not there before. So you're talking about Pete Bavacqua. I thought you were talking about Pete Sampson, and I was like, what? Why would what? So this makes more sense. Matt McCarthy says, a big issue I have is that from what was reported, Notre Dame didn't show much interest in Caleb Downs when he hit the portal. You need to drop the biggest bag and at least be in the mix for them. No. Caleb Downs was never coming to Notre Dame, ever. They didn't show interest because he wasn't interested. And this goes back to his recruitment. Like Caleb Downs visited Notre Dame for the simple idea of getting a bigger bag from Alabama. Like he was never coming to Notre Dame. He was never into Notre Dame like that. He just wasn't. You know, at some point, like it just he didn't want to be there. And that's a lot of guys. Like some other schools have money too. You know, like there's not infinite amount of money. Like if you offer a guy the same amount of money at Ohio State or a little bit more, Ohio State will just up the offer, and that's where he wants to go anyway. Like they're going to go where they want to go. Ed says, I've heard talking heads say OSU let up on the gas in the second half. Any actual evidence that they did rather than Notre Dame offense just playing better? No. Like they literally said, I mean, Will Howard and the defense guy said after the game, like when they went up 31-7, the coaches were actually telling them, like, keep the opposite. Keep your foot on the gas because they will make a run. Notre Dame is going to make a run. You need to keep your foot on the gas. Like they were saying the opposite. Like Notre Dame, look, we have an entire season of evidence that Notre Dame could play well on offense. An entire season. Like Notre Dame was a good offensive team. They bogged down as they have in the past in the middle of this game, and it coincided with Notre Dame's defense getting shredded in a way that they haven't all year. And so they lost the game to a better team. That's what happened. They can play on offense. So, Matt McCarthy says Notre Dame needs to allow fans to contribute to the NIL collective. They'd be able to raise a lot more money. I don't think Notre Dame has any problem raising money for their collective. That's not the problem. It just isn't. Envy Irish says, did you see anything special that OSU was doing on the O-line or with the running backs blocking to stop the pressure all game? Not pressure. I mean, the running backs did a great job in pass blocking. Travion Henderson was key on the kind of the decisive play, picking up Jack Kaiser. The running backs were exceptional in pass blocking all game, right? Notre Dame had some good pressure numbers, or basically the same amount of pressures as Ohio State did in the game. They didn't do anything special per se. I mean, when Notre Dame, what I will say is, and this is a difference with Ohio State than maybe some other teams, and something that I didn't factor in before the game, and that kind of bothers me. Should have thought of this, but like Ohio State is good enough at wide receiver to where if you're only sending 3 on the route or 4 on the route or whatever it is, you're still going to win because their wide receivers are good enough. You can keep those backs in the block. Whereas other teams, if you're keeping those backs in the block, you're not getting that separation with those players in Notre Dame, on Notre Dame secondary. I mean, you can see the complete difference. Like Penn State's wideouts didn't catch a pass. Like Indiana and their passing game, they weren't able to do anything against Notre Dame's defense. Georgia found some opportunities with deep balls, but it was like 2 plays. The rest of the game, Notre Dame had them locked up. Like, because you can't just send out 3 or 4 against Notre Dame secondary, but with Emeka Egbuka, Cornell Tate, and Jeremiah Smith. Look, what did Ohio State's tight ends do? Kind of nothing, right? Because they were blocking. They stayed into block. But they have the wideouts to win, and that's the key. Matthew Patterson says, why did Notre Dame call timeouts and the clock ran 4 more seconds? Mitch Evans ran out of bounds on the catch and the clock never stopped. I believe on that stuff they put the clock back on. Herbie was cringy. Yeah, Greg Wasserman says Herbie was cringy. Lou Holtz should keep his mouth shut from now on. He was wrong about OSU being soft. I mean, I think a lot of people like the Lou Holtz stuff. I thought he was making it, as Lou likes to do, he was making it about himself and not actually about Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. And look, Lou's kind of been like that, right? Like he likes to make things about him and not Notre Dame. So, but as far as Herbie, like I watch every game on mute because usually it bothers me. I like to take it in kind of on my own. But yeah, Lou making it about himself. What a shocker. What a shocker. Just going through some more not super chats, but comments here. We're talking about Herb Street and his dog. I mean, it's great about the dog, but I mean, it's too much about Herb Street. Like, why is he? I don't understand why he is such a main character for ESPN. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, why? Why? He doesn't have to be like the avatar for college football. Indie Russian Dabber, Great House absolutely was the best receiver on the field. I'm not going to take anything away. He played a great game. He was not the best receiver on the field. I mean, these guys are good. Those Ohio State guys are good. And I think they would have made plays too. They definitely would have made plays against Ohio State secondary. And it's funny, like Jamie and I were talking about this last night after the show. Like, God, those OSU corners are garbage. God, they stink. Like we think their numbers are just some of the worst you've ever seen. And Davison Egbenuson, he literally holds every single play. It's like truly embarrassing. God, what an awful, just bad performance he had yesterday. E. Olson, what was your read on Osbury's play? Seemed to dip after a strong start to the year. That read is correct, in my opinion. I didn't think that he really improved. I mean, he's got something on his arm and he's had it, so maybe that's limiting him. It just didn't. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get bigger. He needs to add size. I don't think he's a good enough athlete to play at 217. Jamie and I were talking about, he's not JOK. He's not that kind of athlete. He's got to get bigger. There's too many times where he was just completely stiff-armed into the ground and missing tackles. Not just in this game, but it happened against Penn State as well. It just we didn't see the playmaking from him. I should have brought up PFF's numbers to kind of back this up on like run stops. Let me try to pull it up here while I'm talking about it. But it's just it isn't for as frustrated as people get with Drake Bowen you do see playmaking with him, right? Like you do see playmaking from Jalen Sneed at that position, and so let's just look at for the season here. Let's go to defense. Apologies. Just give me a second here. Jay Nosberry. I think that's 12 run stops. Oh, no, it's 12 assists. Run stops. Osbury is at 26. So look, that's run stops. So that's good production. Let me see what it's been in the last few games. I'll just look at him. Yeah. So, okay. So post Army. Okay. Post Army. So in the first 13, I guess the first 11 games of the season, he had, 22 run stops. So that's when you stop the team on a run play. It's a failure for the offense, basically. So like 1 to 2 yard, 3 yard kind of, you're stopping them, right? 22 run stops for them from USC into Ohio State, which is 5 games, only 4 run stops for the rest of that time. Just didn't see the playmaking. He had as many missed tackles as he had run stops. It fell off for him. It fell off for him in the second half of the season. And look, again, maybe there's an injury that we're dealing with there. So he's got to get bigger. He's got to get bigger. Robert Halicki says, we need O-line projected starters for 2025 this week. Also have to keep an eye on Wagner's weight. I think Wagner, the weight thing is no longer a talking point. Oh, man. O-line starters. I think we are going to see center's interesting with Ashton Craig and Coogan. It's very interesting. I think we'll see Craig. I think one of the guards will be Shrouth and Jagusa. I think, what's interesting is like, what if they move Anthony Knapp to center? Monitoring. Actually, Anthony Knapp, like I wonder. Oh no, he's at high ankle. Sorry, he'll be fine. So I think left tackle. That's going to be like Knapp and like maybe Lambert battle. I think Wagner's penciled in. I think Wagner's in. I think Jagusa and Shrouth are in. And I think center and left tackle will be an open question. I think they want Jagusa at guard. I think that's what we'll do. Nick Gruwell, there's smoke around Carnell Tate transferring, and I am 100% for Notre Dame doing a little tampering last night. He would come to Notre Dame. So this is, I did hear this. I heard this like pre-playoffs. I heard this. So this is a good callback. I heard it from someone who like knows things too. We're monitoring the Carnell Tate situation. I think he might be in the portal. I do. I don't know for a fact, but I don't know if Notre Dame is in on this at all. I don't. So they've already brought in 2. Oh man, but I did hear that Carnell Tate was going to go in the portal. That's a good call from you, Nick. James Patricia says, shocked at the performance of Al Golden last night. Yeah. Disappointing for sure from him, and just the defense as a whole. We thought it'd be better. Chris P says, when will we hear about the transfer portal players leaving? I would say pretty soon, probably, maybe tomorrow, the next few days that'll start coming out, just on guys who they're moving on. I will say, I think just based on what we've heard and kind of the vibes and everything, and again, what we've heard about it, I think Notre Dame's going to hang on to the key players that they, guys that Oh, I'd hate to lose him. Like, for example, Jadarian Price. Like, I think Notre Dame's going to hang on to him. Guys like that, like Jalen Sneed. I think that'll be a good situation for Notre Dame. DT Karate says on the last OSU third down conversion in the fourth quarter, why didn't Notre Dame play a defense that had more coverage in the secondary? We didn't need to make a huge play, just needed to stop the OSU big play. Here's the thing. They didn't need to stop a big play. They needed to not allow a first down. And to be honest with you, after the catch, it's better for Christian Gray to just let him score. Because then they can run the clock down and kick a field goal and go up 2 scores and you're done. Like the game's over. Whereas like if you let them score, it's 38-23, but at least you're getting the ball back. And then you can go down and score and try to kick an onside kick or something. So, I mean, obviously, Christian Gray is not thinking that. It's counterintuitive. But like I do think if you are going to call that coverage, and it's like if you are knowingly vulnerable to a deep ball, you kind of do need to tell them like, hey, if they go over the top on us and they hit a big play, let him go. It's better to let him go. You have almost no chance to win the game tackling him at the 5. You have a greater chance. It's not very big, obviously, but you have a greater chance of letting him score and getting the ball back. Obviously, didn't think of it. These are the things that I think of, obviously, because I'm a weirdo. So it's just, like you gotta. I mean, you take a chance, right? Like Al Golden's kind of saying like I want to force. He's saying I want to force a poor play from Ohio State rather than kind of hope for them to not execute something if they have time. Because Al Golden's probably thinking, I don't know if I can get pressure with 4, and I want to speed up Will Howard here. I want to speed him up. And like he took a chance, right? And it didn't work out. They got the Ohio State got the matchup they wanted. And at the end of the day, Ohio State is good because of their wideouts and Jeremiah Smith specifically. And they have something that no one else has in Jeremiah Smith. And they turned to that thing at the end, and it won them the game. And so, look, it's a credit to them. They executed the play. They blocked it up properly, and it was a microcosm of the whole game. Notre Dame tried something. OSU was ready for it, and then they were ready to execute and make that happen. So, look, it's good to have the goods in that situation. And if you need the goods for your media company or a highlight reel or something for your social media page or your small business, then you can go to VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Noah Dew says Christian Gray was thinking that OSU just wanted to get a first down instead of throwing a go ball. He was trying to jump a route. And in fairness to him, like if you're sending that many players, Notre Dame's sending 6. So he's counting on that they won't have time to throw a go ball. Right? He's playing it like that because they're kind of coached like that. The great corners, the great corners can do both things. You sit on it and then you have the ability to recover. But it's a tough ask against a player of that caliber. He's as good as you'll find. Let's see. Just checking some more chats here. Jay Patterson says, any insight if TRs I don't know what transfers. I think maybe that's what that means. I think we just talked about that. Bernie Cordero is asking about is Evans coming back? He is not. He is out of eligibility. As mentioned in the chat. E. Olson says, with roster limits reportedly increasing, is there any need to process guys like Jaden Thomas? Might as well come back and be a fifth wide receiver and get another degree. I mean, if he wants to, he can. Maybe he wants to go to like Georgia Tech or something closer to his hometown. If he wants to leave at all. Like if he leaves, I'll bet you it's like to Georgia Tech. He's from Georgia. It makes sense. But we'll see. I hope he comes back. I like Jaden Thomas. He's a good player. Trader Z says, any word on Golden? Oops, excuse me. Any word on Golden? I believe he's going to go to, or we believe he's going to go to Cincinnati, and we believe it's going to be Mike Mickens as Notre Dame's thing. Robert Hallecky says, any other transfers coming in? I think it would be hard for them to come in for the spring. Maybe it'd be a fall situation. It'd be hard to come in for the spring because the classes have started, so they would have already been enrolled. In which case, people are kind of combing the student directories to see. So maybe for the fall, Notre Dame can get on that. Trader Z says, did Aeneas Williams play? Yeah, he didn't play that much, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't have a bigger role, especially in the passing game, given Notre Dame had to throw. But he played a lot of third downs for Notre Dame. I can check how many snaps he played if you want. Let me just give it the once over here. While I'm doing that. All right, let's see. Game reports. Ohio State. Offense. Total. Aeneas Williams played 10 snaps. So ran 5 routes, 2 pass blocks. Jay Wu says, how much do you think Marcus Freeman contributes to deep play calls? I love Mickens as a recruiter and developer, but worried about his lack of experience with play calls. I think with Al Golden, he's not doing it as much. Maybe he's a little bit more involved with Mickens, right? That remains to be seen. It's a good question. Something to monitor throughout the spring and fall if it does happen to be Mickens. And by the way, Jamie and I were talking about this yesterday as well after the show. Like on the 4th down call or on the 3rd 11 call, like it was coming out of a timeout. In that situation, Marcus Freeman, it'd be weird if he overruled Al Golden in this spot, but like Marcus Freeman signs off on Notre Dame going with the defense and coverage that they did. He's the head coach. He can say, no, I don't want to do that, right? He's signing off on it. So it's an Al Golden decision, but like Marcus Freeman, if he doesn't like it, he can just say, I don't like this. I want to do something different. He can do that. And so I just think that's good context for the situation. DT Karate says, what's your feeling on next year's team offensively? And do you think we'll see a major dip while the new quarterback coaster his learning curve? I think their running game should be very good. I think given what we saw from Greathouse and Faison in the playoffs, what they're getting in Malachi Fields, what they're getting in Will Pauling, what that Eli Raridan can do in the passing game. I think when you consider you'll get something from Micah Gilbert specifically. I know they like Logan Saldate. Cam Williams, this is a huge offseason for him, just enormous. He needs to be a player for Notre Dame. But it's hard to know because, and I think the offensive line should be good. They're all coming back. Or at least everyone has the ability to come back. And so if it's just the quarterback, what do you got? What do you got from Angeli? What do you got from Carr? Is Minchie going to hang around? Are those guys okay to stay? What's that situation? that's kind of everything. I don't want to say a major dip. I just think they'll be too good in the running game, in the offensive line, to see like a major dip in their ability to produce points. To me, it's like it's how do you mitigate that, but also like you are losing Xavier Watts in the secondary, you are losing Cross and Mills. You are losing Kaiser. You're losing Jordan Clark. Like, you're counting on Devontae Smith to kind of be the next good slot. It's hard to replicate a defense as good as Notre Dame's, especially when, like, I like Notre Dame's additions on the D line, but you got to get like a major jump in play from Bryce Young, from Josh Burnham. Can you get Traore back healthy? Right? Like, can you get more explosiveness from like Jalen Sneed, KVA, guys like that? It's hard to replicate a defense as good as Notre Dame's was this year. And so it's like there's kind of a push and pull situation there. You're losing what you're adding. Like, how do you offset the two things is something that's going to be interesting. Just reading more comment. Irish 1. Greg, what was your single most enjoyable moment of the season? Do you have one that jumps out to the front? Single most enjoyable. I think, I mean, it's just like such recency bias, right? Like, I think the most excited I ever got at any one moment was the Gray interception against Penn State. That was kind of like, it was just such a nail biter game. The way that Notre Dame had played to come back in that game, and then for Gray to just make that play. It's like a diving interception to win the game. I think that one is up there. I mean, it's funny. Like, Gray has a lot of them, right? The 4th and 2 breakup. It's like, you're going to beat Texas A&M. Like, that was a great moment, right? It was a great, just like, Notre Dame's going to win. They're going to get it done. I think the one I can't believe this is happening moment was Jeremiah Love's 98-yarder against Indiana. It was just like, because it was a home game, and I thought the crowd was as into it as any crowd has been at Notre Dame in a very, very long time. And to hit a 98-yarder in that moment, like, I was like, I can't believe this. Like, this is amazing. Like, it's a storybook kind of way to start the playoff run. So that one, probably, I would say those 3 plays kind of stick out to me. But look, I mean, it's good. There's a lot of great moments. Irish 1, thank you for the super chat. Hopefully that was the question. Single most enjoyable moment of the season. Hopefully that was the question you wanted for that super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Tex ND says, you do a great job with the comments, Greg. Kudos. Thank you, Tex. Appreciate it. Or TX, I should say. I'm calling you Tex, but I don't know that that's true. E. Olson says, X staring at USC bench has got to be Greg's answer. That was definitely cool. It was definitely a cool moment. I don't know if it was like the single most enjoyable, but I did enjoy it. That's for sure. Definitely cool. Just kind of reading more comments here. I think I'm caught up. Okay. Rajon says, great pick versus USC for me. He's a sophomore. All you claim he's such a bum. I mean, yeah, that was a great moment, man. It was really great. It capped, in many ways, it felt like that was kind of their title moment, and then they had to run into the buzzsaw that was Ohio State. It felt like that was kind of a national championship moment for Christian Gray. and for, Mitch Jeter to hit the kick. And I think it's important for people, like, obviously, um, obviously it ends the way it ends, right? And only one team gets that feeling at the end of the season. But I think that one thing the playoffs allow is for people to um, have several moments that are memorable in the run. And I think that's what kind of separates itself from like the 2012 season, from the 2018 season, from the 2020 season, where Notre Dame went to the playoffs in 18, went to the playoffs in 20, national title game in 12. Is like they didn't have that run where you beat a string of good teams, and I think that is kind of what makes it special in a way that, like, no team has had the moments like this. No team has had, when I say no team, no Notre Dame team has had the moments where you just had 3 consecutive wins. Like Notre Dame, let's see, they beat 5 Penn State, 6 Georgia, 10 Indiana. Like, you beat 3 top 10 teams, and these are 3 top 10 teams, like, at the end of the season, right? It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, they were ranked 5 at the time, they ended up not ranked or whatever. Like, you beat 3 top 10 teams in 3 consecutive games, and you had so many moments that were just memorable, right? Like the RJ Oben sack, the Jaden Harrison return kickoff, the Jeremiah Love run, the Riley Leonard hitting Jaden Greathouse, the Christian Gray interception, the Mitch Jeter kick. Like, you get to have those moments that we haven't gotten to experience. And I think, as fans, I'll include myself in that. I'm obviously a fan, but I try to cover the team objectively while being subjective in obvious, transparent in my allegiance, right? I'm a Notre Dame fan. I think we need to hang on to those moments that we haven't had in such a long time. 30 years of not getting that big game, that big win. You win the first home game in the playoffs. You win the Sugar Bowl. You beat the SEC champions. You win the Orange Bowl against Penn State. We Notre Dame fans have just not gotten that. And you got it this year, and you got 16 games. 16 games of Notre Dame football, of top-level Notre Dame football, and you go on the road and beat Texas A&M in Texas A&M. Like, people said, you can't – no, people counted Notre Dame out in that game. They counted Notre Dame out. And there are so many people who picked Texas A&M to lose to Texas A&M, to lose every single one of these postseason games. Every single one, right? And, if you follow this channel, I think Jamie and I did a good job of kind of highlighting that this is a good football team, and you can appreciate this team. And then they went out and paid it off. And it didn't work out in the end. They didn't get to be national champions, right? Ohio State was better than them, and they lost to a team that was better. And frankly, like, in a way, I'm glad it was a situation where, like, Ohio State went out there and they just kind of whooped them, whereas, like, Notre Dame made mistakes, yes, but, like, a lot of these are forced mistakes. Ohio State made the plays. It wasn't a ref call. If it was a ref call, I was telling friends of mine, like, I don't know that I could handle a close loss. Like, if it was like a ref shenanigans, like the Florida State game, if it was ref or if it was something like Notre Dame, just like they fumbled at the wrong time or something like that. Like, Ohio State just whooped them. And that happens. They were 9.5-point favorites. And I said at the time, like, if they lost 34-24, would it be a big surprise? It kind of wouldn't be. And that's what it was. It was 34-23 with a missed field goal in there. So it just, you got to hang on to the moments. You got to hang on to this season. You got to celebrate these guys. You look at like Christian Gray. Like Christian Gray gets a lot of flack. The plays that he made, they're as good. They're as good as any plays a Notre Dame corner has made ever in your career. Game winner against Texas A&M. Game winner against USC. Game winner against Penn State. These are great moments. He had tough moments, but like special plays, special plays. No Notre Dame team has ever had to win this many games in succession in order to try to win a national title. Lou's team didn't have to beat 4 straight top 10 teams at the end of 88. They didn't have to do that. They didn't even play the number 2 team in the country that year. You know, it just didn't happen in the bowl game. It didn't happen, right? No one else had to. So I just think we got to keep that in mind. And I'm keeping it in mind. It's obviously difficult to have it end that way, but it's a great season that Notre Dame had. And one thing that I didn't want is I didn't want them to underachieve, and they didn't. Notre Dame got everything that they should have gotten out of this team, especially with the injuries and everything. They lost to a better team than them, and they beat the toss-up games that they had, or they won the toss-up games that they had. And so it is what it is. So that's that. You know, it was a great year. It was a great season. And, you know, look, we'll be back, right? I'm not, it's not like we're ending our coverage or anything like that. We're going to be back. We'll see how it goes. In terms of Jamie and I will be back on Thursday for sure. Maybe I'll have a show tomorrow. Maybe I'll just do live shows daily from now on. I don't know. We'll see. But look, it was a great ride, and I appreciate everyone for being here. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Subscribe to our channel. A lot of fun stuff coming up. We've got junior days. We've got portal news. We've got roster construction. Spring is kind of around the corner, right? So we've got that spring game tailgate. Jason Z says we'll see about that. But yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back soon. And you want to know when we'll be back, so you hit the notification bell. So whenever it is, we're going to go live or release a video. So, all right, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for chatting with me about this. I had a really fun time on the 25-26, as NV Irish says. Be good. Be good. Don't get caught up in the media and all their narratives and stuff. It doesn't matter. It only matters what kind of you take from it. So, all right. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Keep hitting and hustling.